The next item which we discuss in this video is receipt by way of compensation. Normally what happens is that in case there is a breach of a contract and you get some kind of a compensation, it is a capital receipt. But by virtue of this provision which is there in section 28, the receipt of compensation in the following cases is chargeable to tax under the head PGBP. So let's see which one of these are the ones. Sum due to or received by. So this could be taxed either on receipt, or even if it is due, then it can be taxed. Let me just highlight the important word in the first one. Managing agreement. Now what happens is, please listen carefully and then we can go through the text. There could be a person, let's say Mr. A, who is managing the Indian operations of a big multinational, let's say HML. Now A is managing the entire agreements of the Indian operation of HML. But what happens is that someday HML decides that, look, Mr. A, thank you very much for your services. We don't want your services anymore, or we want Mr. B also to come and share your services. But being the fact that you have served us pretty well, we will give you $10 million. Now this $10 million which A receives is basically for termination of his contract or modification of the terms of his services. So this amount which A receives is chargeable to tax under the head profits and gains of business and profession. Okay? Now let us see the language. Sum due to or received by any person, which was A in our case, in connection with modification. The modification came in when they said that B will also be a part of this. Termination of his managing agreement. So they said, okay, we don't need you anymore. The contract stands terminated for the whole or substantially the whole of the affairs of Indian company or any other company. So earlier he had the right to manage the whole or in substantially the whole of the affairs of that company in India. So they modified the terms and removed him and gave him the money. So this money is going to be charged under the head profits and gains of business and profession. Second, any person, okay, let me just highlight terms of agency agreement in India. Similarly, what could have happened is that HML, suppose, had an agent A who was selling all their products in India. But suddenly HML decides, I will put on a sales office in India and I don't need the services of A. But they paid him, say again, $10 million. So any person, any sum received by A in connection with modification, termination of terms of agency. So his terms of agency provided that he has to sell goods of HML in India for any activities related to business of any other person. Now this could be relating to selling of goods. It could be providing, say, suppose you are a car company, let's say Hyundai. If suppose they had some person providing them some services and they said, okay, we'll start providing our own services, but they compensated this guy pretty well, which they would do because there's a very good company and all the multinationals are good in terms of, being fair to people. But the money that A receives will be chargeable to tax under the head PGBP. And the third category is any sum received by any person for vesting with the government or corporation owned by the government management of any property or business under any law for the time being in force. Now, independently, suppose we were the caretaker of any property. We decided to vest it with the government or some corporation owned by the government, and in lieu of this management, the government compensated us by paying some amount. Then this amount is also taxable under the head PGBP.